Today we begin the three holiest days of the Church's year, the Paschal Triduum. We call them holy because of the passion, death and resurrection of Jesus, and in that passing over from death to life, Jesus makes humanity whole again. He breaks down the barriers of suffering, sin and death, all those things that break us apart, those things that would separate us from God, from each other, and even from ourselves. All of these things are put back together again by his death on the cross and his rising from the dead. On Holy Saturday, we will sing the hymn, Life and Death Contended, Combat strangely ended, Life's own champion slain, yet lives to reign. I hope I'm not exaggerating when I say that no other Holy Week in the history of the Church will be as strange as this one. We followers of Jesus obviously feel the urge to come together on these 3 days to celebrate the central mysteries of our faith. But in this Holy Week, we're separated by social distancing. We can't be in touch with each other physically. This is the very opposite of the Incarnation. God is with us. We believe he is with us in times of sickness and pain and distress, and in times of joy and happiness. That's one reason why we live these 3 days in a particularly intense way, and why we're streaming so many of our services from many churches, to remind us that even though physically distant, we are spiritually connected, to remind us that we're all part of the body of Christ. We remember Jesus' words and actions that he said and performed on Holy Thursday. Do this in memory of me. We remember. We put back together again the separated members of his body. We remember that we are each of us part of that body of Jesus in the world. As St. Teresa of Avila put it so well in the 16th century, Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks with compassion on this world. Jesus is flesh of our flesh, bone of our bone. He brings the abundant love of God to us in every situation, no matter where we are, what anxieties we have, or what trials we suffer. Jesus is the body language of God. He sees the unseen, he hears the unheard, touches the untouchable. He is company for the lonely and neglected. Jesus is indeed Emmanuel, God with us, God with you, God with me, wherever we are. There's no such thing as social distancing when we're in communion with each other as we are in our prayer today and in the next 3 days. And even though we can't receive Jesus in Holy Communion tonight, we can make a spiritual communion, a place for him in our hearts and in our lives. Many people will say, when this is all over, but of course it will never be all over, because things will never be the same again. We will all be called to be more vigilant, more caring, more responsible, not just for our own well-being, but for the well-being of others as well. There are lessons to be learned, even in the most painful circumstances of life and death. During his Last Supper, on the night before he died, Jesus gave us the gift of himself, when he took bread and wine and said, "This is my body, this is my blood, this is the very essence of me, bread of life, food for the journey, the nourishment that we need in this life and in the next." At Holy Communion, the priest raises the host before our eyes, and he asks the question, the body of Christ, and we reply, Amen. I believe. Amen.